Hello and welcome to Antinatalism this week. These are the headlines. A Nigerian scholar challenges procreation asymmetry and principle of disutility. Alicia Sangineti, a Spanish vegan geologist, talks about antinatalism and environmentalism. A new argument against pessimism and antinatalism called hybrid holism. In videos this week, Lawrence discusses suffering focused ethics and antinatalism on P.F. Jung's podcast. Childfree Dianne meets Sarfaraz Ansari in Mumbai. Matti Häyry explains pure cloning on the dissenter. Stop having kids, continue outreach in Philadelphia, Texas, and New York. More Hindi voices join the antinatalist conversation. Religion and philosophy feature with Christian antinatalism and Hildebrand. Amanda's viral interview sparks new response, and Lawrence launches a new short form response series. And in population news, fertility rates hit record lows in England, Wales, and Scotland. India sees a sharp drop in school enrollment alongside declining birth rates. Now, the news in detail. An evaluation of concept of asymmetry in relation to the ethical principle of disutility is a paper published in the Journal of Leadership and Development at the University of Uyo, Nigeria. One point to note, we cover many articles, books, and papers here on ATW. But other than David Benatar and South African universities, I don't remember having academic papers from other African countries. So this in itself is special. This paper's main aim was to evaluate the sufficiency of asymmetry and the principle of disutility. The asymmetry this paper talks about is mainly about there being either reason or duty to avoid bringing miserable people into existence. But there is no such reason or duty to bring happy people into existence. The principle of disutility is best understood in contrast to maximization of utility. On the classical utilitarian view, we should try to maximize happiness for the greatest number of people. In other words, we should maximize what is utility. The principle of disutility, on the other hand, is about reducing disutility. We should prioritize the reduction of suffering, for example, over increasing happiness. These two things, the procreation asymmetry and the principle of disutility, are tied together according to this paper. So the criticisms of the principle of disutility also apply to the procreation asymmetry. The paper gives a few examples of such criticisms from the past, but let's look at only one of them. In 1945, Karl Popper, an Australian-British philosopher, wrote, "I believe that there is, from the ethical point of view, no symmetry between suffering and happiness or between pain and pleasure. In my opinion, human suffering makes a direct moral appeal, namely the appeal for help, while there is no similar call to increase the happiness of a man who is doing well anyway." Not just this, but he also talked about the urgency of suffering, the recognition that all moral urgency has its basis in the urgency of suffering or pain. We should realize that from the moral point of view, suffering and happiness must not be treated as symmetrical. In response to this, in 1958, another writer called Roderick Ninian Smart argued with a scenario of what we would call today the red button thought experiment. Suppose that a ruler controls a weapon capable of instantly and painlessly destroying the human race. Now, it is empirically certain that there would be some suffering before all those alive on any proposed destruction day were to die in the natural course of events. Consequently, the use of the weapon is bound to diminish suffering and would be the ruler's duty on negative utilitarian grounds. This, he said, was bad, and therefore negative utilitarianism should be rejected. Now, one remarkable thing is, for those of us like me who are not trained in philosophy and are exposed to these subjects through the internet, it is surprising to see that the red button discussions had been going on way before there was Reddit and Discord and whatnot. Anyway, after pointing to the criticisms like these, the paper gives its own criticisms about measurement of utilities or disutilities. Many of the criticisms against positive utility also apply to disutility. One of the problems is that both assume that it is possible to measure utilities or disutilities. The second criticism it makes was hard for me to understand, but here it is. The notion of disutility ignores the fact that societies are very complex. It may seem rational in one society to focus on reducing suffering, but in another society, people may focus on another aspect of their lives, even if they have to continue to experience pain or suffering in their daily lives. I could not fully understand this notion of collective subjectivity to principles of ethics. If this is about moral relativism, then this criticism is not specific to this particular strand of ethics. But maybe I'm wrong. Alicia Sangineti is a geologist, former research professor, atheist, antinatalist, and an anti-speciesist. Her text-based interview was published on a Spanish radio website, which I got translated into English. Alicia's antinatalism seems to be driven by environmentalism, although she also refers to David Benatar's philosophy. The interview itself is quite short, but with strong language. For example, when asked about politicians who are trying to increase fertility rates, she says, aside from being a son of a bitch, which seems to be an essential requirement for accessing positions of great power, I think another requirement around the world is being very ignorant. Now, I don't know if this was a translation error or she actually said this, or it could be a bit of both. Anyway, Alicia is 55, and like every vegan, Alicia Sangineti regrets not having realized it sooner. So if Lawrence or Amanda are watching this, she seems a good potential candidate for proper exploration into her antinatalism. Antinatalism Japan will be doing their outreach on September 21st, Sunday in Jingu-bashi from 3 to 5 p.m. Japan time. If you happen to be in the area, you may want to check this out. Myonsky Theatre is a YouTube channel whose videos we have covered in the past. Notably, they made an animated film about antinatalism for which Lawrence had done a voiceover for the lead character and a live stream talking about his experience doing that particular film. The creators of that channel have also created this 2-page short PDF zine, which is like a short story of a girl who gets into miserable life whether she listens to her parents or not. The PDF is available for free, and you can make a cutout as directed to make a small readable story. Pessimism and Well-Being and the Goodness of Lives is a doctoral thesis by Miriam Bronsky at McMaster University in Canada. It's a 216-page thesis, and I have not read it all. Just on the basis of the abstract, it seems to suggest a new argument for well-being that refutes pessimists like Schopenhauer and contemporary ones like David Benatar. So with this new argument, which is called the hybrid theory of well-being, we can see how lives can be made worth living. Now, I'm not sure if they make a distinction of lives worth living into lives worth continuing and lives worth starting. Anyway, the thesis is divided into 4 parts. First part critiques existing theories of well-being. Second part defines and defends what is called as hybrid holism. Third part is about topics of pessimism, antinatalism, and problems in them. And then the fourth part contrasts hybrid holism with pessimism. To know what that hybrid holism is, read the PDF available on open access. The link, as always, will be in the description. Now, on to some notable videos, of which there are so many. Lawrence was invited as a guest on PF Jung, that's the podcast channel. Obviously, it was on the topic of antinatalism and the arguments for and against it. Lawrence explained his suffering-focused ethics and antinatalism. They talked about rationality versus reality, ending existing life versus starting new ones, the subject of autonomy and people's reproductive choices and rights. Overall, a very good, entertaining and engaging podcast, and congratulations to Lawrence for doing this on these medium-sized channels, which has around like 30,000 subscribers. Childfree Dianne has started a new channel called Dianne Dialogues, on which she posted her interaction with Sarfaraz Ansari, who is an ex-Muslim in Mumbai. They talk about personal experiences, antinatalist arguments, as well as Sarfaraz's mission for right to die. Dianne had traveled all the way from the US to Mumbai, where she met Sarfaraz and made this video. It's only an informal interaction, but remarkable in the sense that two people from two different ends of the world and from two different generations and genders find antinatalism as a connecting cause. Pure Cloning is a book by Tuya Takala and Matti Häyry, published by Cambridge Elements. This book was published in March 2025, and we covered it at the time in ATW. Matti was interviewed on The Dissenter, about this book. They talk about what pure and impure cloning means and different ethical views about pure cloning. These include utilitarian views, bio-utilitarian views, deontological and Kantian views, teleological as well as views from virtue ethics and theological perspectives. So there are many different ways to both support and oppose pure cloning. The opposition arguments take us to antinatalism, which is the subtext of this book. If we are to oppose pure cloning, that is, making a clone of a person exactly as his or her genetic makeup is, with no enhancement made and no gene editing to weed out potential diseases and so on, then we are essentially opposing reproduction in general. Cloning is only different in degree and not in kind. Interesting idea, interesting book, and of course, an interesting interview on the dissenter. Stop Having Kids in the US are doing their outreaches and putting out videos of those outreaches. There are 4 videos recently put on their channel. One is in Rittenhouse Square in Philadelphia, which is one of the places they seem to go often. Another one is in Texas in a city called Fort Worth. This is remarkable because I have a stereotype in my mind of Texas being an ultra-conservative religious place. But here we have Stop Having Kids doing campaigns over there. And then another one in New York and another one again in Philadelphia. Just fabulous work, and I wish more of these come in more countries. Stop Having Kids should not stop. A channel called Rational Mishra has been making many videos, and having kids is one of the topics they touch upon from time to time. The creator is Aditya Mishra, who, for example, posted this video in Hindi addressing the argument of extinction and appeal to nature in relation to antinatalism. It was a very good video to watch, but that's not it. The news is I will soon be interviewing him on this channel about his overall thoughts on antinatalism. So another Hindi episode is coming up. A relatively small channel, Stoner Chul, posted a video making a Christian case for antinatalism. Now, this is not new. There are books already written on this topic. What's new is more and more people are realizing this connection. The point in this video was that we are all born in sin, which started from the story of Adam and Eve. So the act of birth seems to be some kind of sin, and hence the case for antinatalism. And just to contrast that, this religious channel called Dr. Derek McAllister made a podcast about whether Hildebrand's philosophy can defeat antinatalism. It's a 42-minute long podcast, and I've listened only to some sections of it. Many things which the host says about antinatalism are incorrect. For example, he has labeled the section which talks about David Benetta's asymmetry as deep dive into hedonism. That's because they thought Benetar was only talking about pain and pleasure in life. They probably don't know that Benetar took them as examples of harms and benefits of life, something Benetar has clarified. Anyway, the title is misleading as well. Hildebrand was a German Catholic philosopher and religious writer. But I said the title is misleading because it is only at the end when the guest Jacob Hillis mentions that he is working on how Hildebrand's arguments defeat antinatalism. That's the only passing reference we get. A channel called Think Before You Sleep made a rather nasty response video to Amanda's interview on soft white underbelly. He misinterpreted Amanda, accused her of being a monster, did a lot of ad hominem attacks, and had a very bitter tone. That was a few days ago, and we even did a response to that in one of our ATWs. Now, one of his fans by the name of Tom Shepard, that's the name of the channel, also made a response video. Point to note is, this person generally likes the content that Think Before You Sleep produces, but is also an antinatalist. So it was a response worth watching. Just a small note, there are some conspiracy theories in there, so keep your immune system awake. Lawrence has started a new style of short videos where he responds to comments made against antinatalism. So far, he has posted 2 such shorts, one about antinatalist arguments being dumb and another one on hatred towards antinatalism. Your saintly devil, Siddharth Dafaria, has been making some excellent Hindi videos about antinatalism. One such video he posted recently was on blood relations. Blood relations are used as a very big excuse to have biological children instead of adopting existing children. Siddharth addresses this, and even though I agree with everything he says, I think there are some areas in that argument which are unexplored. If time permits, I might make something on that in future. Now on to some population news. The Telegraph reported that the celebration of childlessness has gone too far. That's because the latest data shows that the total fertility rate, which is average children per woman, has dropped to a record low in England and Wales. A similar article, but with much more balanced tone, appeared in The Guardian and also included Scottish figures. In summary, total fertility rate fell to 1.41 in England and Wales in 2024, while the Scottish rate was 1.25. This seems like a good news on the surface, but there are many nuances which are talked about in those articles. From the UK to India, there has been news in many mainstream media sites that enrollment in Indian schools has hit a 7-year record low because of falling birth rates. Now, there are problems with this kind of news because it is not clear if falling birth rates are the real reason. Moreover, enrollment of girls has actually increased. It is the fall in the enrollment of boys which is contributing to this. And on top of it, India has not done its census since 2011. Yes, you heard it right. The last census was 14 years ago. Right when India overtook China to be the world's most populous country, its government didn't bother with the regular decadal census, which was supposed to happen in 2021. Initially, COVID was the reason, but then elections happened, all the religious festivals happened regularly, but nobody bothered about the delay in the census. So those who are blaming falling birth rates for the fall in school enrollments have some explanation to do. The original report from which this news is coming is the Unified District Information System of Education Plus. I looked at the report and it is so basic and complex that you have to be a trained statistician to draw any inferences from this. So as usual, no matter what the technology does, information is always hard to find in India.